Are you unlikely to buy a bottle of sparkling wine? You feel you don't have a special occasion to buy such an expensive bottle of wine? Well, I'm going to be talking to you about a bottle of sparkling that isn't expensive, that can taste really good, or can be mixed with cocktails. We're going to be talking about that sparkling wine and so much more on this episode of The Average Wine Enthusiast. Hi there, everybody. My name's Mike LaPlante, and I am the Average Wine Enthusiast. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Prosecco, that Italian sparkling wine. You know, Italian sparkling wine before the year 2000 meant drinking spumante bambino. And I'm sure there's a few of you out there that remember drinking some of that. It was mostly horrible, really sweet, and you only bought it because your girlfriend made you drink it. The things you do for love. Anyway, Prosecco, believe it or not, has not been in North America widespread until about the year 2000. And that is when the company Mionetto decided to create the Prosecco niche. However, Prosecco had been around since when the Roman the Roman Empire was, still happening up there in northern Italy. Since I just mentioned where Prosecco comes from, let's get a little more specific. North of Venice is a area where good Prosecco grapes grow. We'll get into the grape in a minute. And it's focused north of Venice. That's where most of the Prosecco wine production takes place. The actual town of Prosecco, though, the Prosecco, Italy, or whatever it's called, is actually in Trieste. We're near Trieste, which is on the other side of the Adriatic Sea, across from Venice. Kind of wacky, but so be it. Now back to the grape. Prosecco is not the name of the grape. It was for a long period of time, though. Do we know when it started being called Prosecco? No, but I have a feeling that it was around the time of Pliny the Elder, who's basically like the Einstein of alcohol. He was a person who wrote down a lot of scientific facts about alcohol, and Prosecco was definitely one of the things that he wrote about, and he did call it Prosecco, I do believe. However, in the late 1800s, 1876 to be exact, Italy opened a wine-making school. The one in Prosecco, in the Prosecco region, was actually one of the first ones in Italy. There was probably one in Chianti too, I'm thinking. And it was then that they realized, that they have to standardize the way that they make Prosecco, because this is going to be our thing. And I think they realized this was their thing, these grapes that they were growing there, which from that point on, they decided to call Glera, Glera. I'm not exactly sure where that name came from, or it was a name that was already associated with the grape. There is another name that starts with P that I'm not going to remember, that people also think that the Glera grape is either related to, or it just has the same name. But regardless, Glera grapes are the grapes they use to make Prosecco. Speaking of making Prosecco, how do you make Prosecco? Well, you take the Glera grapes that you grow, and to be called Prosecco, it has to have at least 85% of the Glera grape in the bottle. It can be blended with 3 or 4 different other white grape varietals, and just those 4. And to get your DOC, especially your DOCG. So they take their grapes, they put them in a stainless steel vat, they ferment it by throwing yeast in there. It eats all the sugar that's in the grapes. And then they put more sugar in the vat, the stainless steel vat, and put some more yeast in there to create a second fermentation. They do this while it's under pressure, though. The second fermentation takes place under pressure. I'm not sure how much pressure, but I'm guessing it depends on how much fizz and how big you want your bubbles and all that kind of stuff. So once the second fermentation is done, then they filter out all the dead yeast and they bottle that. So it's bottled under pressure, as opposed to, let's say, champagne. The second fermentation takes place in the bottle. That one step right there is a really good reason why champagne is so expensive, because there's a lot of labor involved with turning the bottles and emptying out all the dead yeast, and it's a big operation. Whereas Prosecco, not so much. Prosecco is also not very expensive. There is basically 2 levels of Prosecco. There's really 3, and some might even say there's 4. But the 2 main ones are, of course, your DOC and your DOCG. DOC is just your regular Prosecco that grows in a very large area around the town of Conegliano and Val d'Abiodene, and that's where, and it's usually not as hilly there. Whereas in those 2 villages, it's really hilly, and that's where the good grapes come from for DOCG. The more slope you have, this is true for any grape really, the better the drainage, the better the exposure to the sun and all that kind of stuff. So that's what you make your DOCG Prosecco with. There are also other rules besides just the location. There's lower yields, I believe, and there's also the amount of time it spends in the bottle, and I think there's a couple other things. But DOCG Prosecco is a good Prosecco to drink on its own, as opposed to what a lot of people use regular old Prosecco with, DOC Prosecco, and that's for making cocktails. One of the more famous cocktails that is made with Prosecco is Italian as well. It's called Aperol Spritz. Aperol is an alcoholic liquor that is made from botanicals that they infuse into booze. And you mix that with some Prosecco, a little shot of soda water, and some orange zest or a slice of orange oftentimes, and you got yourself an Aperol Spritz. And they are delicious, I have to admit. So Prosecco is a big part of that culture. You can also make a lot of spritzes. You can mix it with Saint Germain, which is another botanically infused liquor. That drink is called a Hugo. And so yeah, Prosecco makes anything spritzy. If you get a spritz, your odds are high you got a Prosecco. So Prosecco isn't really that expensive, and I'm sure if you're buying it in bulk, it's even less expensive. It's maybe as expensive as soda water as far as that goes. But if you want some good stuff, the DOCG stuff, you have to get it from the Conegliano or the Val d'Abiodene. That's easy for you to say. Val d'Abiodene. Anyway, what do I got here? I got a bottle of Val d'Abiodene Prosecco. It's Prosecco Superior. So that's oftentimes a name, that Prosecco that has the DOCG indication on it, that you're going to get Prosecco Superior. There is another one that's even higher, and it's called Cartese. And that only grows in a very small area in the village of Val d'Abiodene, and that usually sells out pretty quickly. We were there, I don't know, maybe a month ago. We stopped in at a winery, and they said they had some, but it was gone. And I'm sure you pay probably a pretty penny for that as well. Another thing about Prosecco that I'm thinking about is the level of sweetness. There is dry, there is extra dry, that's what I have in my hand here, and then there's brut. Brut is the driest. So if you're ever wondering what brut is on the label of any sparkling wine, it means that it's the driest level there is. So I was thinking of cracking open this bottle. I mean, like, you crack open a bottle of Prosecco because it pops open, you know, it's celebratory. We were just at a party last night and we cracked some Prosecco. It's just, you know, you hear the sound of a cork popping because it's under pressure. It's like a party favor, right? Pooh! Fun times in the house. So how do you open a bottle of Prosecco? Well, first you got to take off the foil, which oftentimes has a little piece of perforation in the foil. So it makes it easy for you to get the top of the foil off. So you can expose the little metal apparatus that is holding the cork down. That little metal apparatus has a name. It's called the cage. Not related to Nicholas either. And so you pull that little thing down there and you loosen it by going in a counterclockwise motion. And sometimes, depending on how much pressure is in this bottle, just releasing this cage will be enough for that cork to pop off. Fortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. And then what you got to do is carefully remove the cage. Boop. So that's staying on there all by itself. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on how old it is and the storing conditions and all that stuff. So that's ready to come out though. So what you got to do is you grab your bottle, and we're not going to pull or twist the cork itself. It's all done with the bottle. So this hand here, your dominant hand, I would recommend, holds the cork in place because it's going to want to pop off, and you just twist the bottle. And we're going to get so you just twist the bottle, pop. I love that smoke that comes off the top there. Oh, and we got a little gusher there. Okay. Flutes and Prosecco, not necessary. Pour it in a regular old wine glass if you like. But I think flutes are, they're celebratory as well. Flavors don't necessarily come out of flutes very well, but they do hold the bubbles better. So your bubbles stay bubblier longer. But with a Prosecco Superiore, DOCG, you're more likely to find nice notes of white fruit and maybe even a little nuttiness or well, let's just find out. Let me pour it in here and let's see what we get. Can I just put this up to my mic? Sounds like a storm is happening or something. It's a pretty thing, and you don't swirl it. I'm a habitual swirler, but swirling your bubbly is not recommended. That's bright and fresh smelling. It's like a little bit of lychee and a little bit of apple. Let's give it a taste. That's very nice. The fact that it's not brut, you get more of a fruity sweetness, a tank, like you're biting into a really unripe green apple. That's what your mouth wants to do. And I swirled again. I can't help myself. That's just yummy. And of course you want to be serving this cold, relatively cold. 50 to 55 degrees would be beautiful. But even if you want to just stick it in your food fridge, pull it out, open it in a relatively quick amount of time, and it'll be delicious. Because, well, warm bubbles, there's nothing wrong with warm bubbles, because then the flavor really comes out. But I recommend cold. When we were in Valdobbiadene, we stopped at a winery, and they offered us Prosecco without the bubbles. So it's just glera, still wine glera. And there's a name for that. Oh, I wish I could remember what the name for that is. I'll put it right here. And that was actually delicious. Glera wine on its own as a still wine. It was great, I thought. But you'll never see that here. Still glera wine. It's interesting that Prosecco existed for as long as it did and never really made an appearance in any place else other than Italy. That is so true of so many other countries. On this trip we went to Croatia, and I found grapes that I've never tasted in my life. The same is true in Portugal. You're going to be drinking grapes that just do not make it to anywhere else but the country that they're making the wine in. Let me just take one more sip here. Yeah, that's very, very nice. Whereas some of Prosecco's that if you buy a bottle of Bottega Prosecco, or what's the other one in the little bottles, Zonin, which is so convenient. Little one-use Prosecco bottles. Perfect for making cocktails just for yourself or, you and somebody else. You don't have to open a bottle of Prosecco just to do that. However, they do make devices that close this up and keep the bubbles pretty good. I highly recommend you invest in one of those if you don't plan on drinking a whole bottle of wine, which for some people that is a foreign concept indeed. I guess that's all I wanted to talk about Prosecco. I'm glad to be able to be doing this stuff here. I'm relearning a lot of stuff. I know I haven't done a show in quite a while, but that's going to change. Like I said, we just went to Croatia. I'm planning on doing a show on Croatian wine very soon, sometime in the next month or so. I should have another show out on Croatian wines. I'd like to thank you for watching this show, and if you know anybody who's into wine as much as you are, that you're watching videos on wine, let them know about the Average Wine Enthusiast. I'd also like to thank the Big Organ Trio for letting me use their music in the show. Until next time, my name is Mike LaPlante, and I'm the Average Wine Enthusiast. Ciao.